Hello, everyone. Today we are in for a special treat. We have a special guest for this video. It's my husband, Ege.
Hello, everyone.
And we are both at home with COVID right now. But we're both feeling pretty good, except for the fact that I can't smell or eat anything suddenly. That happened on day 5, and it's very devastating. But otherwise, we're good, and we're both feeling creative, so we decided to make a YouTube video together today. It's going to be an interview in which I am interviewing Ege about his experience with coaching. So if you're new to my channel, you might not know that I'm a women's personal leadership coach. It's something I've been doing full time for the last 3 or 4 years. And basically I help women in tech and other male-dominated industries overcome self-sabotage and step into their most juicy, most fully expressed lives at work and beyond. And before that, though, I worked at Google for 6 years. Ege still works there, and we actually met at Google. We won't get into all of that today, but we will get into Ege's personal coaching journey, which I think a lot of people can learn from. Anything you want to say or share?
I'm excited to share this. It's been something that I've taken skeptically at first, but learned a lot from later. So I'm excited to share all of that with you.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to interview you, because when I'm talking to people about coaching, just out in the world, there is a lot of skepticism. So I guess maybe even before we get into your story, do you mind telling us a little bit about like your skepticism? What did that look like?
Sure. Well, I grew up in a Middle Eastern culture, very patriarchal, and I've always been told that I don't need anybody's help. I don't need to ask anybody to coach me, guide me, that I can do anything on my own, which is empowering to a certain degree, but I found out that when you ask for help, you can get a lot out of that. And my skepticism came from mostly around, well, what can a coach teach me that I don't already know? And I thought that it was about that. It was about teaching me what I don't know, but it wasn't about teaching me anything. So the skepticism came from my own misunderstanding of what I thought coaching was and how I was averting to asking for help.
Got it. So what had you, get coaching, sign up for coaching in the first place? Can you just tell us the basics of your experience, how you came to it and what it looked like?
Well, honestly, I wanted to know what you're doing on a more meaningful way, on a deeper level. And you can't be my coach. I need to go find a coach and get the experience on my own. So that was it. That was just wanting to understand what you do. Mm-hmm. And, it wasn't necessarily my priority to get something out of it for myself, but that quickly changed once I started working with my coach.
Yeah, I remember you were, and I thought that was really sweet to me personally, that you cared enough about me that you wanted to get like this deeper understanding of what I do, besides just like the snippets of what you may hear me saying to people from the other room. So okay, well, what did your coaching setup look like?
It was talking once a week for 3 weeks a month for 6 months. So I went through that whole program with my coach, Selflove. Mm-hmm. And each week I brought something to the table to discuss and get coached on. Sometimes I didn't really have anything, in which case we just start talking and something would come out in the first 5-10 minutes of our sessions. And topics ranged from family relationships to career to self-love. And over time, some of the themes turned into projects, and we had chance to go deeper on that.
Yeah, awesome. That sounds a lot like how I work with people. You know, the 6 months, 3 weeks of a month, one video call a week, and then we have like a week off every month. And then also in terms of like what you described is very typical in terms of what coaching sessions look like. You know, sometimes there's a particular thing that a client wants to work on that they bring, like they're having a challenge with XYZ at work, or maybe they notice something about themselves, like a pattern of thinking or behavior that they want to change. But also, you know, a lot of the times people will come, and I'll even go to my own coaching sessions, like not necessarily having a plan, but there is this magical way that something always comes out of it. You always stumble upon or like get guided into something that needs work. So thank you for sharing that. I think that will help people kind of get a sense of just like, well, what does it even look like? So what did you get out of your experience? Like, what were the benefits of it to you?
Well, many different things, and I'm definitely still have those benefits in my life, and I continue to use some of the tools and learnings that I got out of coaching to this day. First of all, it really helped me heal my relationship with my family in a meaningful way where we all could move forward and continue to love each other very much. It helped me communicate my needs and requests in a more meaningful and deeper way to everyone in my life, but starting with my family.
Mm-hmm.
Really understanding what my needs and wants were, and putting them first into paper, then into my words, and communicate that into others who I interacted with. Other than that, I found out a lot about myself and this is something a lot of people say, I believe, is how hard I was being on myself,
mm-hmm.
and how to work around that. And we call that out my self-love project,
Mm-hmm.
which included anything from just taking a vacation when I wanted, or just taking it easy when I needed, or getting a massage, or just understanding that being hard on yourself is not necessarily a productive way to go about things,
Mm-hmm.
which is my upbringing, which is my conditioning, is to work as hard as I can until I drop dead. And I saw that wasn't quite working out, and through the self-love project, I was able to address some of the ways that I was being hard on myself, and it was really helpful to name it as a surviving mechanism, as a character. So I liken this part of me to a character from Kill Bill 2, Padme, the famous trainer who is really hard on the main character, and nothing is ever good enough kind of deal. So once I actually put a name to what this is inside of me, or just kind of like put a face to that aspect of my character, it was a lot easier to work through it, work with it, and resolve it.
Yeah, so how did coaching and / working with Steph help you with that whole self-love journey? Because I think self-love is something everyone is working on, thinks they're working on, right? So that might be one of those areas where it's like, well, I know what I need to do. I can do it on my own. I think a lot of people think that, right? Like, oh, duh, I just need to be nicer to myself or whatever. So how did coaching help you in a way that you couldn't get to just on your own in that area?
So my coach never told me, you should do this, you should do that. It was always coming into realization that this is not going to work out in the long term. And a lot of the times during our sessions, the answers came to me from what I just said, never from what she just said. She held the space and carried the conversation in a meaningful way where it helped me get to the bottom, to the core of whatever we were talking about. So it wasn't ever one thing. It was just kind of seeing myself as a whole being and how parts of the aspects of myself were affecting that whole. And once that became obvious, the answers came right after. For example, if I just finished a huge project, I'm also a musician. And at the time, I just released an album. And my coach addressed the fact that I continued to worry about how to market this, how to promote this album, how to get listeners, as opposed to just taking a step back and celebrating. So the answer was obvious. We took a vacation to Hawaii to celebrate the release of this album, and it was amazing. It was one of the best things I did for myself. And in that vacation, I made it a point to do nothing but just have beach time, which is just what I wanted. And when I came home, I had capacity and ambition to work on promoting that album and doing whatever else needed to be done.
Yeah, I remember you before those days, like just booking a vacation to celebrate something isn't something you would have ever done. So I'm really grateful to you, Steph, for helping Ege create a breakthrough in that category. But I love like what you said about it's not like she ever told you to do anything. It's through that space that's held. There's something so magical that just happens that like where the client kind of comes up to their own solutions and realizations. And sometimes that comes through the coach, like giving you reflections about yourself that you may not see or often don't want to see. Like your best friends probably aren't going to tell you because that would just potentially make the relationship weird or whatever. So I think like that mirror aspect is also really helpful.
Yeah, totally. The reflections are sometimes out of the reflections would come like, I wouldn't say challenges, but certain like homework, for me to do, like journaling about something that was bugging me, or a work situation with my, day-to-day job, something that I needed to address with my career, and these challenges, so-called, and homework was also really helpful to move forward, and it gave me tools to use after our program with my coach was done, to go back and have those tools whenever I needed.
Yeah, the way I like to sometimes describe it to my clients is like our sessions where we're, in the live call together are kind of like the team huddles, and then the rest of the time your life is like you playing out on the field. Like it's not enough to just have an insight or a new awareness, you have to go put it into practice. So that's where like those challenges that you come up with together with your coach can be so helpful, because it's like, and you're held in it too. Like you might go have a really scary conversation with your manager or your partner or whoever, but you know that like you can text them right after or give them a call, and they're there to support you. So you mentioned your music project too. I know that that's something that you gained a lot of traction with while you were actively coaching with Steph. So can you tell us a little bit about what that looked like?
Well, it goes back to the beginning of this conversation, learning to ask for help, and that I don't need to take on 100% of everything that I always do. So I hired an assistant to help me with promotion, marketing, and those type of tasks. I eased my grip on wanting to get all the big gigs and chasing and doing stuff just to do it.
That was a big shift for you.
Yeah, and it created so much space and ease in my life. Just to be able to say no. So, two things probably: asking for help, and two, learning how to say no.
Awesome. And what results did you see in your music business during that time?
My whole approach to how I was going about it changed, and it became less about success and more about enjoying the process and having fun, which is why I do it. At the core of it, the reason why I play music is that it's the joy of doing it. It's not that I'm seeking a result. So, centering myself in that joy was definitely the main result. But if we want to get more specific, or at the time I remember I got a huge event, huge gig at Grace Cathedral, and I was also assigned as not just the musician but also the musical director, which meant that I needed to put together a whole night of music with other musicians and such, and I was going into my survival mechanism of trying to do everything myself, and that was stressing me out and not giving me any place to go other than just contraction, and it was definitely not being successful. And the people I was working with kept pushing things on me because they saw that I was willing to take it. So through coaching, I got back to that core of just playing music for playing and having a good time and having that joy. And the night happened. It was a success. I had a lot of fun. The musicians I brought in also had a lot of fun. We sold a lot of tickets, and it was great. But I didn't wear myself out. And I also established a healthy relationship with the people that hired me, and we continue to work with them to this day.
That's awesome. So it sounds like some of the themes overall from your coaching journey and what you've taken away from it is like better communication skills, definitely more joy and being kinder to yourself, like better relationships, especially with your family. And also I know that like in our relationship, it kind of opened this possibility for us to have like a deeper intimacy in our conversations and kind of up-leveled the kinds of conversations we were having because of like all the self-awareness that comes out of coaching. So yeah. That's awesome.
And understanding your values and where I stand. And for me, I found out that nothing was more important to me than honesty and being as open as possible, first to the self, to myself, then to you, then to my extended family, and then to the world. And how I represent myself matters with this honesty. So for me specifically, that was a core value that came about. And in our relationship, we really worked on that and opened up what that meant more and more, and we continue to do so.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think I just have like one or two more questions for you. So now that you've experienced coaching, who would you recommend it for?
I would recommend it for anyone who it's just something that you got to try out. It's going to be a unique experience for every individual. The coach is going to be able to provide that space for you to exist. And it's a safe space to make mistakes, experiment things, try things out, and then come out of it with what you've always known but haven't really put into use or existence. What's inside of you comes out.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would recommend it for anyone who is in any stage of their life, young, old, rich, poor, like it doesn't really matter, you know. It's if you come in as your whole self, even if you have expectations, reservations about what this is, as long as you show up, you'll get something out of it. So all you gotta do is show up, even if you don't believe in it. In my case, I didn't believe
Mhm.
in the beginning, you know, but I showed up, and
Yeah.
something came out of that.
Yeah, and I really think there is a coach for everyone, just like there's a therapist for everyone, so you can find someone that you jive with. And I was also going to ask you what advice you have for people who decide to take it on. Sounds like your advice is to just show up.
That's the biggest advice for sure. Show up.
Mhm.
Just show up, and doesn't matter if you have expectations, reservations. As I said, that's okay.
Mhm.
It doesn't really matter. If you just commit to showing up for that hour, even if you don't have anything to talk about, even if you don't really need any support on it, if you don't think you need any support on what's going on, whatever, as long as you show up, you'll get something out of it.
Awesome. Any other tips or anything else to leave folks with?
Well, I wish you best of luck in your journey, wherever you are. And know that the answers are in you. But sometimes those answers don't come out by themselves. Sometimes you need a catalyst, and perhaps coaching could be helpful for that.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Can I have a kiss?
Yes.